Hey there, what's up, people? So here we go with our sixth module, the regular module of the Power of Two. And this is entitled Why Dividends Are Sometimes a Bum, why it's sometimes counterproductive. So you know what dividends are, right? So dividends are paid from the retained earnings of the company. So at the end of the year, usually the company pays out dividends to its shareholders. And if you talk to a more senior person, then you will hear this: invest in stocks, you will get dividends. Usually, I used to teach MBA. Well, up until last year, actually 2019. So in my recent class in MBA, I asked the students, what is the value of investing in the stock market? 80% answered, we get dividends. 10% said, we can get rich. And, well, 10% said it is proven historically investment vehicle to defend your money against inflationary erosion. That last one was me. So actually, people usually get it wrong. But let us look at the answer of almost all of our not only seniors, but these are also young people, 30s. Some are in their 50s, but some are 30s and 40s. We get dividends because people don't really know where the stock market is going, where the prices are going. Then they just rely on what is more or less, what is sure, what is certain, which is they get dividends at the end of the year, especially if it is a company that is usually giving out dividends. But why are companies issuing dividends? Companies issue dividends to pay out unused equity earnings to shareholders. Hmm. But why are they doing that? According to Warren Buffett, if I believe that the shareholders can find better ways to use their cash, we return the shareholders' earnings by way of dividends. So and I'm not saying that all company owners are doing this, but if the owners of the company believe that they have no need of the extra cash, they can't use it anymore, they can't make it grow, they have no need of the cash, then they usually return it to the shareholders. And usually, and I don't know if I am getting ahead of the presentation, but usually this happens among cash cows, big companies that have excess cash. So usually, if you have excess cash, they are either retained or distributed by way of dividends, or sometimes they buy back shares so that the share price will go up. If it is returned, it may be returned in the business, or it may be retained to acquire something else, like acquire a certain company, another company. So usually, when you look at this, usually when you have excess cash, you only distribute it when you have no need of it, like in case of dividends, or when you have an intention to buying it back so that the share price will go up. And usually on the left side, if it is retained, usually it is retained because the business needs it. It is needed for operation, or it is needed for growth. And if the company is young and it's aggressive, like Apple in the old days, usually my example, Microsoft in the old days, usually they don't pay dividends. And that's the truth about growing companies, the aggressive ones, especially the ones that have most need of the companies, the cash, because they're still in their building phase. So dividends in maturing companies, if you look at this, Procter and Gamble current yield is at 3.2%. Well, this is during the time of this picture. So P&G, uh, Diebold, Northwest Natural Gas, Vectran Corporation, Cincinnati Financial, Coca-Cola, they are giving out dividends. And look at the 20-year total return, 764%, 192, blah blah, 551. And these companies have been paying dividends since, look at Coca-Cola, since 1893. Uh, Northwest Natural Gas since 1952. The years of dividend increases is in for more than 50 years, right? So dividends and cash cows, I've mentioned this a while ago, and this is according to the Boston Consulting Group. Usually they say that companies start out as question marks. They have high market growth rate. In in an industry where the market growth is high, usually you have low market share still. So you are in this side, and usually you are a question mark. And you pour in many investment in order for you to be a star. You have a um, high market share in a high growth market, so you become a star. Later on, of course, according to the law of diminishing returns, usually the market growth rate eases out, and then it becomes, it's either not growing anymore, or maybe you have killed all your competitor. You're the only one in the industry, and therefore the market is not growing anymore. All right. Most industries are like this. So usually, um, a company becomes question marks first, and then they strive hard to be stars, or else they will be dogs. Usually, if in the portfolio the dogs are set aside, you kick them out. When the stars fade, they become cash cows. Usually, right? Um, so usually, in terms of cash generation, you really have to pour in a lot of cash in a huge market growth industry. You have to pour in a lot of cash, especially if you are still part of the low market share. Like for example, Sun Corporation. The when it was still being held by John Kokongwei Group. Sun during the old days, they were here, and they poured in a lot of resources in order to compete against Smart and Globe. Of course, Smart bought them, and therefore they become one company. Globe is on one corner, sulking because they got defeated by two giant companies. All right, in terms of market share, of course, right? So that's how it is in the real world. So especially if you are a company that's still growing, you won't surrender your cash yet. So that is why we're saying that if your company is giving dividends, that's not really a good sign, because um, it may be that the company has no need of the cash. Therefore, it's not growing anymore. Okay, so it pays at times if you're a high dividend payers. Look at that, high dividend payers versus non-dividend payers. They're increasing better, 1970 to 2012. But this kind of research is doesn't tell the whole story. Of course, companies that have outperformed the low-paying dividend payers. It doesn't say here whether these companies are not paying dividends because they are simply not just they're not growing, maybe they're losing money. Therefore, especially if you're outperforming the others, therefore you may be issuing dividends. Not because, it's not the other way out. It's not because they're paying dividends that they have outperformed the non-dividend payers. They have outperformed these shares or these companies. That is why they are able to pay dividends. So it's the other way around. So I don't really believe in this kind of research presentation. So conclusion, it's good to have dividend given stocks, but growth stocks may not pay dividends. So higher payouts mean lesser growth potential. So if you are a company like, let's say, mm, Apple is no longer part of the growth stocks, but it used to be, right? Apple, when Steve Jobs was still there, when they're about to launch the iPhone, the first generation iPhone, the iPad, iPod, and all those things. During those times, they will not pay dividends. Microsoft during the 80s hanggang 90s, 95, they will not pay dividends. I think it's the first time that they pay dividend is way past 2000 na, when they started paying dividends. Yeah. So higher payouts mean lesser growth potential. If you are already paying out your money, it's like withdrawing from your investment. It's not doesn't grow anymore because you're already returning it, okay, to your shareholders. That's it. So I hope you learned something from what we presented today. Dividends are sometimes good, sometimes bad. I mean, not really that bad because you're earning, but usually you get a very small cash compared to what it could earn if they did not pay your dividend. But there are certain exceptions, like I know Phoenix Petroleum used to give 100% sometimes, or 50%, 100% cash dividend. So what you can do with those huge chunk of dividends is that you can give it to other stocks. You can reinvest it, adjust your portfolio, and put it in somewhere else. Okay, so that's it. Good luck in all your investments, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.